So the whole focus of this package is giving people the facts on climate change and like how it'll affect us instead of trying to sensationalize it like the media does. So make it more believable and make more people aware of it. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So my first question is just like the basic question: what is climate change?
Okay. Before we can talk about climate, we need to distinguish the difference between the weather and the climate, because most people can refer to the term weather because they are mostly integrated to our lives, and we watch the weatherman on TV almost every night or every morning, and therefore we are more familiar with it. So the weather is a specific event, such as it is raining outside or it is snowing outside, whatever is happening right now at this moment. It is hot and cold. And basically, what happens during a short period is weather. Weather can be tracked within days and hours. Changing weather deals with the day-to-day changes in the weather, such as hot days followed by the cold, and you will see this during this weekend. We're going to get into a very cold spell. So this is changing weather from warmer than normal conditions into much colder than normal conditions, and main reason for that is going to be the Arctic surge, which is not actually the climate change, which is the change in weather. The climate is the average the conditions in the weather over a long period of time for a given location. Um, and that long-term period is 30 years. And when we talk about normals and changing normals can deal with the changing climate, that long-term is 30-year or more. And therefore, the climate change deals with changing the behavior of the weather or the expected pattern in a particular area. For example, rainfall becoming more normal in the wintertime in North Dakota. And I came to North Dakota in 2007, and during the 10-year tenure of my period in here, I have never seen rain falling in wintertime, but it is becoming more and more of our climate, part of our climate. And we've seen this during the past 5-year period. And that is dealing with the changing climate. And also certain the plants becoming a part of our the climate in our area, and because the climate being more hospitable for these plants to grow. For example, corn prior to 1970 only happened to the south of Interstate 94, but now you are traveling across the state and you're seeing corn grown everywhere. So the plants really doesn't appear all of a sudden because of the weather change. It is because of the climate change. Climate changed and it became more hospitable for type of plants such as corn requiring more heating degree days or more energy that is provided by increasing temperatures. And because of that, more and more farmers are feeling comfortable choosing that type of plant because it is becoming more hospitable. And it is not because it was warmer than normal last year. That would be the weather, but it is more becoming a part of our climate, changing climate because of that.
Okay, awesome. How about climate change and global warming? Do they go hand in hand?
The warming is a part of change, um, and the global is the not only restricted to a certain area, but it is for all over the globe. And if that is cooling too, that is a climate change as well. So if it is the global scale, and that would be the global climate change as well. So you're right. Any sign in the positive or the negative in the changing, for example, temperature would be a part of climate change. And if it is in global scale, and that would be equivalent to global climate change. But for this case, yes, the warming trend is global, and therefore global climate change and climate change is identical. But it is only this time.
How will it impact us more into the future? Can you see farther into the future with these things kind of happening?
It is difficult for change to stop, or it is difficult to see it because it deals with the long term, such as 30 years. Just because the December happens to be the cooler than normal, or so far it's been the cool, doesn't mean the climate change stopped. So I need to see at least 15 to 30 years that the cooling trend will continue to make a statement that the climate change the warming trend slow down or stop. So until that moment happens, I will always, or I will continue to be under the impression that the trend is going to continue um, until a long period of time that proves otherwise. So it is really difficult to extrapolate that trend into a very long period of time into the future because you don't know. It is just because that trend is created based on the data happened in the past, and there is always a challenge extrapolating that into too far into the future, maybe the next year and the following year. That would be safe to make that statement. The change will continue and the trend is going to be on the positive. It would be safe to say that, but beyond that, it is highly dangerous to make that statement.
How does the media outlook look on it? Like, how does the media sensationalize it? Do you know anything about that? Do they exaggerate it to some degree?
Yeah, the reason that it prompted you to talk about climate change because you heard about it in the media, and media always makes it more sensationalized. People do not want to hear about near normal temperatures because you already adapted to that temperature, and based on your opinion, it is near normal. Usually, you want to hear about Arctic surge or global average temperatures are in the top 5 during the past 10-year period. Arctic ice have been melting and alarming rate. And you want to read about abnormalities, something more extraordinary, something that is not usual. So that's what you've been hearing. What you've been hearing is from the media is the warming trend will continue into the unforeseeable future. The impacts are generally negative, really. The climate change, warming continues, Arctic ice melts, sea level rises, the locations in the oceans that are low is going to be under the seawater, but also there are locations in the world such as North Dakota will positively impact it from changing the climate, and you don't hear about that in the media.
Do you think like a lot of what the media says has truth to it, or do you think they exaggerate it at all, or kind of just what you said?
Well, there are, even though it might be exaggerated, there are some truth in the base starts with, but and usually um, maybe the media look for um, the news item that supports the pre-existing the conditions. Perhaps For example, when the Red River was under flood during the 3-year period 2009, 2010, 2011, most U.S. media was in Fargo, North Dakota, and trying to emphasize that the floods in the Red Rivers are usually climate change related. But the floods started ending, for example, 2011 was the end of back-to-back, and the next flood happened 2013 and 2019, and since then we haven't had major flood in the Red River in Fargo locations, and the world media or the U.S. media stopped coming to North Dakota because they don't want to write the flood is not happening in Red River. That's not a news. People are not going to be reading that. So because the news usually happens when the bad thing strikes, and people remember that, and you usually associate that with the bad occurring, um, and 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 that might naturally sensationalize the event even further, exacerbate the problem.
One more question for you. How does do you think it's ever possible that we could shift away from things that hurt our environment to something more like nature friendly? Do you think it's ever possible for us to work with nature, or do you think it's never gonna happen?
The voice is cutting and coming at the same time. It sounds like I can hear every other words, and I'm trying to make up what you said, but maybe if you repeat it this time, it is going to come to me better.
Okay. Do you think there's ever a chance that humans and nature could work together to create a more sustainable planet?
Absolutely, definitely. The reason, for example, you will find extraordinary people in Fargo, North Dakota, because of the hardship that we share. Uh, when I started making presentation to the national meetings about the hardship, um, blizzards, cold temperatures, snow, flood. When I talk about flood, especially, usual question at the end of the meeting is, why are you living in these places? But it is not all about the negative, and sometimes the negative events put people together. This is sometimes necessary to create people that are supporting each other. I still run into a person that I was right next to while we were sandbagging together in grocery stores. Hey, I remember you. We were sandbagging together in 2019. I still remember those events. So people will get together once they are feeling the same hardship, such as the conditions lately happening in North Dakota, for example, rain is happening in the wintertime. That is unusual. But what happens with the rain is the ground is still frozen, but the wet and the liquid stuff is falling from the sky, and as soon as it touches the ground, is creating freezing rain. This is something we are not familiar with. We are still trying to get used to that kind of change. And I am always in favor of driving snow, but freezing rain is another issue. So once we start getting this into it, all of us at the same time, we are gonna get together and we're gonna try to solve it. We are gonna try to mitigate the negative impact. At the same time, we are gonna take advantage of the positives. And some of the most important positive implication is corn. Uh, the corn is highly profitable and highly marketable. You can use corn in feed, fuel, and food. Um, and it is happening just because of the changing climate. The corn usually grows in Midwest, where the temperatures are much higher, because corn requires high energy that only is provided by increasing temperature. And another thing is soybean. Soybean is becoming more of a regional crop choice. Those are really highly profitable commodities that is coming up. And we are taking advantage of these positive implications by putting more and more acres um, allocated for corn growth. And we are selecting the type of relative maturity hybrids. We are choosing 110-day corn, for example, usually grows in much southern locations such as Iowa, Missouri, Illinois. It is becoming a part of that too. So all the farmers and the people are getting together to either taking advantage of the positive implications or activities to mitigate the negative implications.
Okay, yeah, that's about all the questions I have for you.
Great.
Thank you so much for your help.
Thank you and good luck.
Greatly appreciated. Thank you. Have a nice day.
How'd it go?
It went really well.
Yeah?
Oh, it's scary, but it went well.
That's okay. So stop recording.